Hello and welcome to the EFM Health Club podcast for another week. My name is Justin Waring, and with me, as always, is both Wade Brady and Jason Jesusius. How are you guys?
Good, thanks, Justin.
We're really excited today. We have a very special guest with us, Sarah Wood. Welcome, Sarah. How are you?
Good, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, look, as I said, we're really excited. Currently, you are with Wade down at EFM Magill after being a member there, and also now taking over with a bit of taking over some of the training sessions there with Wade. Got a really interesting background with fitness and some other areas of health. And also, now that you've gone from kind of member into trainer with EFM, we're really interested in how your background in fitness and with EFM came to the current date. How did you get involved with EFM?
So with EFM, my daughter does dance up the road from EFM, and I commute up and down that road at least 15 times a week, taking her to dance. And I kept driving past this EFM, and I saw this sign. I think it's when we won EFM of the Year, Wade, or Gym of the Year, it might have been.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was a member at F45, and I was starting to get a bit of injury because I'm extremely internally competitive, and the demographic of a F45 is generally the 20 to 30 mark, and I'm 50, and I was looking at those 20 to 30-year-olds going, I can do what you can do, and I was doing it, but I was winding up injured and taking longer to recover, and I just wasn't progressing with my training. So, when I saw this sign, I thought, oh, what's this gym all about? So I popped in. Actually, I think I messaged Wade and said I want to come up and do a trial session, and I kept cancelling. So I'm sure he thought I was one of those people that's like, oh yeah, sure, she's going to join. And then I did turn up, and I said to Wade, my F45 membership's on hold for 3 months. You got 3 months to convince me that EFM's where I'm supposed to be. And I think within 6 weeks, I'd cancelled my membership at F45 and I'd become a member at the EFM. So that's how I got involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was going to take a bit to impress me, but they did. So
you're a little bit intimidating, but I was confident. After out of the initial conversation, which you've just basically explained then what the trouble was you were having, I thought, yeah, I think we'll be fine here. We can tailor it to what you need. Yeah.
And look, at non-reflection, I think that I was fairly heavily into the peri-menopause stage of my life, and there were things that F45 was just not conducive to, that I needed to shift to a new gym to be able to focus on the things that I needed given the stage of life I was at. So and I've gone leaps and bounds since then, I think
my
in terms of strength. And
story you told after a year and a half was you'd gone from 9 kilo chest press to 15. You're probably up to
17 and a half now. Yep.
Yeah.
And deadlifting 70 kilos, which is a fair weight above my weight, and goblet squats, and so strength has just grown and grown because you got time to focus on that. It's not a bang 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 situation, which is what F45 is. And it was great. It kick-started me because I'd never picked up a weight before F45, and so that was my first introduction to resistance training, despite a long history in fitness, and fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. So
just to be clear, roughly how old were you? So you had no gym background at all, no strength training background?
No strength training. So I started exercising when I was 12, and unfortunately I was of that era where skinny was best, and I fell into an eating disorder for about 20 years actually, and so my training was extremely heavily cardio based because it was all about burning calories, so nothing to do with weights. And then after having kids, I started boot camping, which I absolutely loved. But again, it was pretty hard and fast kind of stuff and hard on the body. And then I was diagnosed with endometriosis. So my exercise moved from a aesthetic approach, I suppose, to more of a way of dealing with pain. So it was a pain management sort of situation and a mental health situation. And then, picking up weights. And so that movement into the weights was something new, but again, at the time didn't understand the long-term impacts of weight training. It was just more about, oh, this is something new. This is something I really enjoy. My body composition's changing. I can see the changes from using weights. And so it was kind of, there was no knowledge behind what was good about strength training when I started doing it.
Yeah, it was kind of always the domain of the guys would go down and try and lift weights and grow muscle and
it was a meatheads kind of thing. So
yeah, thankfully that's all changing, really, isn't it? Like there's there's a pretty even split male and female in the weights area of the gym, which is
and it's an awesome thing to see that young women are picking up weights in their 20s, which is when they need to be doing it to prepare them for what's going to happen later in life when you get to sort of that peri-menopause, menopause stage. We didn't know any of that stuff when I grew up. So, the understanding of that importance of strength training has just come leaps and bounds. So it's great to see young women doing it. That's my cat in the background.
Sarah, 15 years.
Go on,
sorry, Jason, I'll quickly go. I just remember in my early years as a trainer, the skinny arm thing was quite prevalent. Like, I don't want to get big. And it's good 15 years later, I don't think I really hear anyone say that. So it's pretty evident how times have changed.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
100%.
That's all right. I just wanted to ask Sarah, what went through your mind? How did you feel when all of a sudden it dawned on you that weights works and that just cardio isn't the way? What happened for you there?
I got addicted for a start.
Yeah.
It was look, I don't know, because it was the science behind it that probably got me in, the benefits of it. So, that whole idea of being skinny, mind you, I still, there's still an aesthetic element to training. You still want to look good, but there was just a massive mental shift from, restricting calories and going crazy to, I actually need to nourish and feed my body to be able to achieve what I want to achieve. So that, there's a massive mental shift in how you train and how you nourish yourself when you make that shift from skinny cardio to strong, healthy kind of mindset. So it was a bit of it was an epiphany moment. It was like a whole weight off my shoulders. Like, I don't have to not eat to feel good and look good. I actually need to eat to be what I want to be. And food's good. Food's good stuff.
How long, Sarah, would you think that transition took? Because it's not one that happens overnight, of course.
No, and look, even when I was training at F45, there was still that whole calorie burning, step on the scales kind of stuff. And I reckon it was a body scan that got me in the end, because I did an 8-week challenge. You do the scan beforehand and then you go through this big challenge. And then at the end of it, I did the challenge again and I had actually lost muscle and I'd lost weight. And I thought, hold on a minute. I've been working my ass off and using weights and doing the right thing. And it's like, shit, I'm not feeding myself. I'm not nourishing my body in the way that it needs to be nourished to benefit from what I'm actually doing. So, there was this transition probably from, the time I started F45 to even partway through being at EFM, where I've had to change the way I eat and think more about protein intake and eating more calories. And unfortunately, when you've had an eating disorder like anorexia, it's always in your mind. It's something that is always there, but the understanding and the benefits of eating healthy and doing the right thing far outweigh, what I was doing before, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Sounds like that gradual shift has been over 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's been slow, and I'm sure that's been constrained by, historical stuff, but it's, I still speak to older women today who are like, I want to lose weight, and they're still focused on reducing their calories, and they're saying I'm walking and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and you go, are you lifting weights? Oh no, I'm not doing that. And that's when you sort of start having that conversation and that I don't know, there's just that disconnect, I think, still with my generation. For women who aren't in the gym, they just don't understand. So yeah.
Well, and I think too, when So a lady will go to the doctor and, you know, have a regular checkup, and the doctor says, listen, you're overweight. Here's your BMI. You're into the 30s. You need to go and lose 20 kilos. And they, well, how do I do that? Well, go and, you know, start by walking, and then try running, and then go to a gym and
cut your calories down. You know, yes. When you need to actually be doing the reverse, like you need to be changing what you're eating and upping certain things. To be making those changes that you need. So
so you're at that, you know, you've mentioned a few times that peri-menopause stage of your life. As three guys, like we're you say your age, we're all roughly the same age, give or take a couple, and we have partners and other people and women in the gym who are going through similar things. Give us an insight as guys, what you go through, some of the effects it has on your body, and then we would benefit greatly on how we should then be kind of both training ladies going through that stage of life, and as partners of women, how we should be kind of supportive as well.
I think the biggest thing is it's different for everyone. So everyone's journey is completely different. But one thing is that from day to day, every day is different. So, you know, you can wake up some days and feel on top of the world and ready to go. And then the next day you can barely move out of bed because your joints hurt so much. And I think I've said to Wade before, I don't know whether I'm hurting because I'm training hard, whether I'm hurting because I'm perimenopausal, whether I'm hurting because I'm in my 50s, but everything just hurts. And you got to keep pushing through that you got to keep going. And the problems, I guess a lot of the problems start when you stop because everything hurts, and then all that gets compounded because you're not exercising. Your comfort eating, you know, you're then feeling bad about yourself, and so then you don't go out, and then you don't, you know, it's this perpetual cycle of negativity. So, you know, just that constant ebb and flow of how you feel, and it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of mental strength to keep pushing through that, to keep turning up, you know, and doing what you need to do. I suppose the other thing is it's incredibly difficult to gain muscle. I think if we can retain muscle, we're doing really, really well, because as your estrogen declines, your ability to gain muscle declines, and all sorts of, you know, chemicals changes start happening with your body, with insulin resistance and your ability to tap into appropriate energy sources. And so, you know, you can be working your butt off in the gym and not achieving what you need to achieve. So, you know, women are frustrated as well because we are working hard and not necessarily achieving what we want to achieve. So what I've learned is keep turning up. You know, something's better than nothing. Prioritize strength training over sort of cardiovascular training. But be kind, you know, and we need our trainers to be kind to us as well and recognize that we're having difficulty. And I know I lost my crap with one of the young trainers about 6 months ago because he knows what I'm capable of, and he kept pushing me. And in the end, I said to the poor guy, oh, for God's sakes, and I use probably more harsh language than that, I'm perimenopausal, I'm 52, I've got 2 teenagers at home, just leave me alone kind of thing, because I was just having a really bad day. So, you know, it's that ebb and flow of sort of what happens from day to day.
Yeah. So, and does it take a little bit of a and you mentioned like it's very difficult to put on muscle mass.
Yeah.
You know, even just adjusting your own goals in terms of maintenance is really good at certain points, and then I might see a little spike, but it's not going to be a continual curve.
Yeah.
Maintenance periods.
That's really hard when you set certain goals for yourself. So yeah, I've had to readjust those goals. You know, I had this idea of having this incredibly sculpted physique, and you know I'm doing reasonably well, but you got to be realistic. And I think unless you're on this, you know, really strict eating plan where you're hitting your protein all the time and you're getting your macros and you're not having a life, it's really hard to sort of achieve those things that you used to be able to do easily in your 20s and your 30s. I mean, you could not eat a bread roll every day and drop 5 kilos like that when you're younger. It just doesn't happen, when you're older. So being realistic about your goals is something that I've had to sort of change my mindset around too. So
What
do you think
I'm hearing there, Sarah, is that you're thinking more long term. What is sustainable? What can I sustain? And to focus on the process more so than the result will take care of itself if I'm following the process the way I mentioned, eating the right foods, generally speaking, and getting my strength training in regularly. Then I'm ticking the boxes, and after that, what will be will be.
And that's that shift in from aesthetic to more long-term health and what I need to sort of age healthily and have a really good quality of life as I get older. So that whole shift from, wanting to look great, which is obviously still important to, oh, hold on a minute, I actually don't want to be in a nursing home when I'm 80, and I want to get through this menopause journey as healthy and as fit as I possibly can and still be able to keep doing what I want to do. I don't want to get to a point where I can't rock up to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week. So so it's been that kind of mental shift and that whole change in why I train or the reasons I train now too.
Were you gonna ask something?
I was just going to say, this is a pretty simple question, but I guess the whole pushing through thing, Sarah, my guess would be that you can't overdo it because your body won't let you overdo it. But can you overdo it? Like for us learning more about this stuff all the time?
Do you know what? I think it depends on the individual. As I said, I'm extremely internally competitive and incredibly strong-minded. So I will not let my body sort of dictate what my mind wants it to do. I think the positive cycle is this: you go to the gym, you feel really good afterwards. It's that mental, all those endorphins, and that helps you overcome that whole I can't do this kind of mentality. So I think that's when I say when you're pushing through, when you're feeling like that, keep turning up, because turning up means you're actually going to do the exercise, you're going to be in that community environment, you're going to get the feel goods, and you're going to get something out of it. And you're not going to get any of that if you just go, oh, I can't do it today. I mean, I appreciate for some people, and I know some people suffer extreme mental health issues with their menopause to the point that, they've had to not go to work. And I've been fortunate that I haven't, but I put that down to my training, because I am turning up and doing the exercise and releasing those endorphins and, getting those muscles working. So it's kind of, it's important to stay in that cycle, even when you're feeling like you can't. So
I think if you could overdo it, you might be the one that has.
Yeah, probably.
And if you did overdo it, I just wonder what that would actually look like.
Well, last time I did it, it looked like chronic fatigue. So I did get to a point where I was doing too much when my kids were young. I was running 10Ks 4 or 5 times a week. I was boxing, I was boot camping, and it turned into fatigue for 2 years, basically.
That was before any menopause stuff, though, wasn't it?
That was in my my late 30s, because I had my third child in my early 40s. So
And so that would have been in that period of like where you were, I've got to get skinny, I've got to get lean.
It was still about the aesthetics. So I've had 2 kids. I want to bounce back. I want to be what I used to be. I can do this. So I was pushing, too hard. So,
it's kind of exhausting. So the flip side of that I'm interested in now, like we've talked about the strength training and the gym. We spoke about it previously off air. I have some ladies at the gym who are real snackers, and within that kind of like period time and going through menopause, there's periods where they have to snack. They just need food. They can't control themselves, and then they're really good for a couple of weeks, and then the hunger comes back. I'm assuming, I'm assuming that that's a reasonably common outcome for a lot of ladies. Does that happen to you? Have you got advice for people on how to deal with that, because as guys, like, yeah, we get hungry, but we don't have the cravings that are uncontrollable.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not having been through what I've been through, I'm not an advocate of bad foods anymore. Like, I don't believe in that kind of language. So, you know, for me, when I feel like that, I always opt for really healthy snacks. So I make a lot of high protein snacks for myself. Like, I make high protein banana bread. I've got high protein balls that are sweet, like naturally sweetened, but they've also got protein in it. I dress my carbs if I'm craving sort of breads and things like that. So dressing them with a protein to balance out that, I guess, that insulin spike you get when you do start sort of hopping into those high carbohydrate, high sugar kind of foods. But protein is, to me, a really good stabilizer of what I understand, your blood glucose levels as well, and that will help reduce those sort of spikes and cravings that you have. But I also love chocolate, you know, a couple of pieces of dark chocolate after lunch or after dinner. I still enjoy that, and I wouldn't advocate not having that sort of stuff, because I think that creates all sorts of issues with food as well. So it's just making sensible choices, I guess. And protein fills you up.
I think that protein with every meal's sort of a non-negotiable for you. It is basically
at this stage, So look, it's really under prioritized by women going through perimenopause and menopause. There's a lot of research around that. I've in the podcast I listen to, we don't eat enough protein, and even having conversations with women in our gym weight, you know, you sort of say, well, are you having enough protein? And they'll tell you, and you go, that's just not, it's not cutting it. And you know, doing those scans and seeing what sort of minimum protein we should be having each day. Even there's days I certainly don't hit my protein levels, but I try and add it at every meal. And if I have a snack, I try and have a protein-based snack, because we need it for the retention of our muscles, but also to help with that kind of crazy insulin stuff that's happening in our body at the moment with estrogen moving around. Yeah.
I think the large majority of the population would underestimate how much protein is needed for optimal health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to eat that in whole foods too. And that's, you know, I try and have a really good quality protein powder that I'll mix in with my yogurt, or I'll have in a milkshake, or I'll throw in with my banana bread, so I'm trying to add protein in other ways, because I know to eat that protein, that amount of protein in a meal, can be hard for some people. So, but it's quite easy to drink it.
I think also we're fighting generations worth of education or miseducation about our carbohydrate to protein to fat balance, about what's best. We were taught, you know, anywhere from 50 to 65% of our calories should come from carbohydrates. I think a lot of information now is strongly challenging that. So, you know, without having the accreditation myself to be able to officially say how much we should be having, I think all the research that's coming out, you know, over the last 10 to 20 years is pointing more towards exactly what you're saying.
Yes, and the podcasts I listen to and the people I follow on Insta who are menopause specialists say women need to be on a low carb, high protein diet. It's just what we need to do. So, if we want to avoid some of those issues that come along with menopause. So,
sure.
Yeah. You're right, Wade?
I was just going to say, changing gears. My question next would probably be, well, Sarah did tell me basically the story with becoming a coach, you know, a PT.
I didn't think you were doing a good enough job, Wade.
It's okay, that's what it was, right? Okay. No, there was an offer came out for anyone we knew that might be interested in doing the course, and I went straight to Sarah. She actually said, "This has been something I've always wanted to do. It's sort of been like my dream job," and I was just like, she was still on the fence about it, and I'll just say that I basically said, "We'll do it. Just do it." Yeah. Like, there's a job at the other end for you. So why do you think you wanted to be a trainer? Number one.
I think when I first was interested in it was just before I got the fatigue. And it was more about, I guess it's more, it's like people go into psychology who generally have issues and they want to resolve their issues themselves, so they do a psychology degree. For me, it was like, I want to go into coaching and training because I want to understand more for me. Fast forward to now, it was a case of watching people at the gym and thinking I'd really like to be able to help them achieve their goals, or get more out of what they're doing. So as well as obviously understanding it for myself, I also wanted to be able to sort of apply that knowledge to the members, but come from a qualified perspective rather than just a peer in the gym. And there was a few people I obviously approached prior to doing my quals who weren't particularly happy about listening to me, and it's just now you can say that you're a coach, they kind of like, they agree with what you're saying. So it's just I love being able to just impart my knowledge, help people get more out of what they're doing, support their goals. Hugely motivated and goal oriented myself and see the massive benefits of exercising beyond the physical, and I want people to get addicted to that as well. So it's sort of evolved from a purely selfish thing to something that's a bit more altruistic and wanting to work with people. Yeah.
And from the initial,
and it's fun, it's good fun. So
it is a good fun job. What have you been doing for 2 or 3 months now? Has it met your expectation? How's it lining up with what you thought it would be?
I'm having an absolute ball. I absolutely love it. The time just flies. It's, we have lots of fun. I get lots of great feedback. I get lots of constructive feedback, which helps me with my planning. It's a love job. It's such a contrast to my day, because I work 4 days a week in the office, and to be able to get up and move around and do something that's just so different from what I'm doing, but also be creative because you're writing programs. So like I can tap into creative aspect of stuff. I can think about the things that might challenge me and then put it into program and see what the members think of it. So it's an evolving process, but I'm having lots of fun doing it.
One of the most confronting things for me when I started, so you write a beautiful program, you've got everything sorted, and then you go and explain it to the first person, and they go and they say, "No, I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
Has that happened to you? How did you cope with that when they're like, "No, give me something different"?
I think I'm pretty experienced with it, because I think I've told Wade that a few different times, and so I've learnt from Wade what to do, because I'd rock up and there'd be so much cardio, there'd be cardio in the program. We're like, I'm not doing that, Wade. You need to find me something else to do.
Words, yes.
Yeah. And so I think I've got good at finding alternatives for people. So I'll sort of and creating programs to some degree that allow them to focus on where they feel they need to be working, while sneaking in the stuff that I think they kind of need. So, on Saturdays, I've got some people who just love cardio. And the first program I ran on a Saturday was pure strength. And they came up to me and said, "Well, there's no cardio in it." And I said, "Well, you can hop on a bike and do some cardio instead of doing that." And they were like, "Oh yeah, I can." It was just like, yeah, you can. But now I'm kind of incorporating a little bit of cardio into each of my programs, but making sure we get that strength stuff in as well. But, at the end of the day, if someone doesn't want to do it, we've got a whole lot of programs there that Wade's printed off that they can certainly go and find something,
and without wanting to bash the other gyms, like that element of EFM where someone says, there are options. It's not,
yes,
this is it, shut up and go.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So I mean, and the thing about F45, which I absolutely loved for 2 years, was it is the same format. You do move quickly through the program. There's no time to really stop and focus on your technique and lift heavier if you want to, and go move more slowly through the program if that's what you want to. And that has been the benefit with EFM in terms of changing my strength, because when we've had programs that you can work through quickly, I've worked through them slowly and I've gone heavier and I've taken more time to do it. So, and you can't do that if you're in an environment that has you in and out in 45 minutes, and that's your only option. So, the F45s are fantastic in terms of kickstarting people, but I think for me personally, longer term, I needed to move to something that gave me that time to really focus on what I needed as well. And it wasn't going to be a 24-hour sweat gym like a Derrimut or a, because it lacks the community aspect, which I love as well.
Yeah.
Training, the programming could mold around what your goals are rather than you fitting into what we've got on the board that day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you I've found with working with the trainers at EFM, there's that preparedness to change and adjust that as well. Like, do this instead of this. So yeah, it's good.
It's actually quite engaging for us as trainers. It's a good little challenge. It's like, oh, what can I do instead of this? And your head might be full of things and say, why am I adjusting this? Oh, I remember I've just had a bit of a sore elbow. Oh, that's right. And then it's like, how do I still work the core without, or you know what I mean? Like, you're trying to a little challenge,
yes,
and it keeps us engaged. And it's both parties are a winner. Where I think that cookie cutter ones, it's a lot more work for the trainers if you're just there to cheer on everyone. And not really think too much.
And you don't have to design the programs yourself either, obviously. So, but I can't think as quickly as Wade can on his feet for alternatives. So I have to sort of go up there with a few in my back pocket, knowing that I might have someone with a sore knee or a bad shoulder or a sore back or whatever. So
Just building up your artillery and
So we go back to the start when you said you were passing up and down the EFM going, well, maybe I should go, maybe. From a perspective, I think if we take it back even further, perspective of someone that's looking to start at the gym, they're thinking about it, maybe they've never been before. I know there's a lot, people are very hesitant to walk into a gym for the first time. And as guys, and we haven't had many, you're the first female we've had on the podcast. So I'm interested in that perspective. Guys, we tell, just go in there, you'll be right. That doesn't necessarily always work for a lady.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you go to take the leap that you took, and then you've taken subsequent leaps going, all right, well, now I'm going to go and get qualified and be a trainer. And so you've taken all of those leaps. What advice do you give for people staring at that gym as they drive past going, I'd really like to, but no.
Yeah. Look, I'm not someone I don't like to fail. So taking that first step's always been challenging for me. As well, because I'm like, well, what if I go in there and what if I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what that machine is and I don't want to look like a dick and I don't want to, and I think over time what I've learned is that even someone who's experienced, if they're going to a new gym or a new environment, they're the newbie in the room kind of thing. So, I'd done the training at F45. I thought I knew what I did, but then walking into EFM, which was a completely different environment, I felt I'm back being a novice again. I think what people need to understand is you've got to start somewhere. There's always going to be someone in the room who's new. Even those people who have had experience are going to feel a little bit out of water in a new environment. And the thing about EFM in particular is that it's so community oriented and everyone's so welcoming. And, we've had a few new members in the last couple of months who have said everyone's just so friendly. And that takes the intimidation away when you walk in and you're welcomed and everyone's happy to chat and happy to help and show you what things are. And I suppose not expecting to know anything. And then you're not going to be, I think that takes a bit of the intimidation away, that knowing that you don't have to know. You don't have to know what's going on because someone's going to be there to help you and guide you. And you have to start somewhere. Like, we've all been beginners at some point, no matter what we've done. Yeah.
That's a good learning for us too. I think I try and identify who's got a bit of gym experience through the questions when they start, but I could even change my way to saying there's no expectation on you at all to know anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to take that pressure off. If you know stuff, well, that's a bonus, but we're here to teach you from the start. Yeah.
And what's been really exciting, we've had a couple of members who have come in who've like, I've never done weight training and we've had that, I don't want to bulk up. and they've picked up the 2 kilograms, and I've gone, okay, well, we'll just work with those for this session. And then they've come back and they've picked up the heavier weights, and they're, you know, they themselves can see what they're capable of. So they start off with this whole timidness about what's going on, and, oh, you know, I've got bad knees and I can't do this and I can't do that. And then the next time they come back, they're into it and they're doing those exercises they didn't think they could. So I think just getting in there and doing it shows you that you can, but it is quite a momentous step to go, to not be going and then make that decision to walk in the door. It's like that member said, Wade, you just can't think about it. You just got to do it, right?
Yeah.
One day, just get up, drive into the car park and walk in. No thought processes involved.
I think just listening to you, like female to female, you're probably going to get more people probably open up. Ladies, that whole, I don't want to bulk up, they're probably more likely to tell you than me. I think building on what you said, another good tip for someone starting out is be vulnerable, like embrace that, because then you can ask the questions and remove any assumptions we might make. It's hard. It's easy said than done. Like, we don't like feeling vulnerable, but you can be. I've heard on another podcast that, you know, it's a superpower if you can be vulnerable, because people want to help people.
Yes,
like we're not judging anyone.
And I think they're more capable than they think they are. I mean, if a woman thinks about the groceries she carries in from her car every day, then walks into gym and picks up 2 kilos and says, that's the heaviest I can do, you know, you kind of think, but you've carried your kids around. I mean, I carried one on the front and one on my hip for years. You're capable of more than you think you are. And that's a huge, I think that's really exciting and motivating for them when they realize that they can do more than they thought they could. So, yeah.
It's a learning curve, and I would imagine a confidence curve as well.
Yes. Yeah. And being confident with all the acronyms and the machines and what to do. But that's where it's okay to go, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing. Show me. It's that vulnerability, like you said, Wade. So, yeah.
I guess the final question for me, Sarah, would be, so you probably feel a bit like, even though you're far different to someone that's just come out of high school and done their Cert 3 and 4, you're starting with a lot of experience under your belt. What are you looking forward to with your fitness career? What do you want to get out of it? Like, we can assume, but if you got any sort of ideas?
I'd like to eventually move out of, you know, the office environments, but I've got an 11-year-old. I've still got to get through school. So for me, honestly, it's kind of it's my retirement plan. And when I say that, I don't mean I'm retiring at 65 and this is what I'm going to do. I mean, I'd like to move out of my office work in the next 5 years and move more into the kind of fitness, coaching, PT kind of space. So, and I think a real focus on the older demographic is that's something that I think is really important, just because we are living longer, and the whole idea of remaining sort of mobile is really important. But then, having said that, I reflect on the youth at the moment and the inactivity in the youth. That's another space that's super, super important, and how you treat your body in your 20s really starts hitting home on you sort of in your 50s. So yeah, you know, on reflection, it's like kind of we need to work across the whole spectrum still. So and education, I guess, educating people on the benefits of training, irrespective of whether you're doing it for mental health or physical aesthetics or strength or whatever, like the positives that just come out of moving is something I'd love to get out there. You know, we've spoke way before about advocating, like, fitness doesn't make money. You know, it doesn't. It's not sexy. Being healthy and fit doesn't make money, and it's a shame. And it'd be fantastic to advocate for the prevention rather than the cure for a change. Yeah. Sorry, that was all over the place.
Yeah.
I think my mind's it's just peeling off in all different directions at the moment. So
that was brilliant. And what's exciting is that with this knowledge, with your perspective, you now get to be a part of that change.
Yes.
And it might only be, it's one conversation at a time. It's one person at a time, whether they're 20 or whether they're 60. we can make a difference. And
Yes.
that's what it's all about.
And
that's
there's nothing more exciting than seeing someone come back, you know, and you become, I've seen that a few times. It's like, oh my God, you're back. I'm so excited. You're back. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
So you mentioned you're in the office 4 days a week, so sitting, I assume. Do you like there's
I'm a fidget bum. I don't sit still for very long, but yeah.
Yeah. So you, as a result of the strength training and general training, do you get like the lower back issues, the rounded shoulder? No.
No, I think I get some of the typical pains associated with menopause. So I do have bursitis in my shoulder, because I know a lot of women get frozen shoulder and they tend to get bursitis. You know, obviously all your joints and tissues and stuff are changing with the changing levels of estrogen, but I don't have back pain. I don't have, you know, any of that kind of debilitating pain, knee pain or anything like that. So
yeah.
I walk to and from the office every day. You know, I make excuses to get up to the photocopier and the coffee machine and go to the toilet about 700 times just because I can go up and down the stairs. So I'm not good at sitting still anyway.
Yeah.
That, you know, and that mobility is really important when you're stuck at a desk all day.
All right, guys, we might leave it there on that inspiring note. Get off the computer, get off the iPad, get off the phone, go and do some strength training. Sarah said so.
And be kind to your ladies.
Yes.
It's a tough time.
Yeah, it is. I think as guys, we just don't, like, we try to understand, but we don't really comprehend. We're not going through it. And we try, I know I try to be as much support as I can, but I also know that I'm not very good at it. And luckily over the next 10, however many years, I've got to practice. So by the end of it, we should be right. Yeah.
And there's plenty we can do as women to mitigate it. I mean, there's obviously your traditional MRT, but you know, nutrition and sleep and exercise and strength training and being active and being social and all those things are really, really important. So
even though it probably feels like it's not helping in a lost cause, it is helping.
100%. I can't imagine what I'd be like if, I do know what I'd be like if I didn't exercise. My kids would tell me. So, yeah.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for that, Sarah. That was really
enlightening. Very good.
EFM's really lucky, and Wade in particular, to have you on board there at EFM Magill. And I'm sure you'll be able to, you know, move out of your desk job, your office job at some point and create a nice, successful EFM for yourself.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, that'll do us for another week. Thanks, guys. Thank you. The EFM Health Club podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Thank
Justin.
Thank you. See ya.